Hello and welcome to the Life of Learning podcast. I'm Justus Frank. Chores. Do you remember chores? I do. I remember those days doing dishes in particular. Yes, we'd get a lolly, we'd get a sweet every fifth time we completed the dishes. But to be honest, even that wasn't really enough for us to really enthusiastically want to do the dishes. We'd still try to avoid them as much as possible. But the thing was, of course, in fact, doing the dishes isn't all bad. I mean, you're standing there, often you're listening to music together, you can have a conversation and all this sort of thing. And it's, and particularly the playing music thing, I mean, possibly even secretly enjoying some of the Backstreet Boys that my sisters always used to play. So that was kind of always interesting. Another chore that I had at times was that I was asked to chop firewood. And, that wasn't all bad either. There's something really satisfying about swinging an axe and splitting a log in two. But, I still hated being forced to do it, and I would still try to avoid, particularly Dad, when I knew he was kind of on the lookout for someone to chop more firewood. So there's many discussions when it comes to chores and parenting in particular. Do you, don't you, do you just do it all yourself? When do you make them do chores? And when? How young do you start them on chores? All these sorts of questions. And it was interesting, I've just recently put out a video called Analysis, and it was an analysis of an article, a parenting article. And the parenting article was talking about the reasons why they think that today's children seem to be bored, impatient, and entitled. So check out that video. It's both on my BitChute channel and also on my YouTube channel. So that might be interesting. But in that article, I'm just going to quote a little bit for you now. The author makes this point. They say that we, meaning children and adults, live in two separate worlds. They have their fun world, and we have our work world. Why aren't children helping us in the kitchen or with laundry? Why don't they tidy up their toys? This is basic monotonous work that trains the brain to be workable and function under boredom, which is the same muscle that is required to be eventually teachable at school. When they come to school and it is time for handwriting, their answer is, "I can't, it is too hard, too boring." Why? Because the workable muscle is not getting trained enough through endless fun. It gets trained through work. And so what they're suggesting is that children are having too much fun, and it's all about fun, and in fact, what we need to do is we need to put pressure on children to complete monotonous tasks, teach them to work. So whether it's chores at home or drills at school, the answer seems to be make them do it because it's good for them. And I'm not sure that's necessarily true. I don't think it's necessarily good for them, because what you are saying is by suggesting that that you need to force someone to do this work. You're saying basically, I need to force you to do this because the activity in itself can't be made fun, can't actually be exciting or satisfying. And it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, is that if everybody basically says that this is something that is to be avoided, then we also avoid it even more. And the more we are forced to do something, the more we resist that force, and we don't want to do that. Even though, as I said before, some of those activities can actually be quite satisfying and you can have fun along the way. But we still avoid them because we don't like being forced to have to do them. And this idea of getting children to help around the house, I think it's actually a really good idea, and it is a positive idea. I think, they've taken something that is quite positive, in terms of a family helping, a child helping within their family, it builds more family cohesion, and the child can feel valued as they do something really valuable for the family. And yes, that is something positive, but then what people do is they take these positive things and they're like, here's something positive. Let's force people to do this positive thing. And as soon as you do that, you end up breaking the power of that positive thing. So there's a big difference between being forced to do something as a duty and doing something freely. Just as there's a difference between being forced to pay taxes and voluntarily giving to maybe a charity that you really like or whatever it might be. So yeah, this approach of doing things as a duty is not very helpful. Now there's also the flip side of that, is that a lot of parents have basically gone, well, I cannot have any expectations on my children at all, and I will do everything for them. I will just basically kind of, I'll be their servant and they'll be the master, and I will just make sure that everything's there for them, and that they don't have to help with anything. And that sort of approach is not very good either, because it's actually really, really isolating when you start getting into these sort of master-servant type relationships. It's very isolating in relationships, and it's not good for the child. And yes, they have a growing sense of entitlement when they're in those situations, and they also begin to feel really, really useless, because they don't know how to help. They don't feel they necessarily have opportunities to help, and that just escalates this whole the bossiness and other things like that. So both of those approaches are not very good. And the other thing about that second approach is that it destroys the parent's own wants, or the parent basically has to push down their own wants, their own desires, and it's not a good thing. So what I would recommend, now I make lots of recommendations and things, and I've had quite a few conversations about chores because this is such a big topic within parenting, and so that's why I think that it's really important to keep having this conversation, and that's why I'm not, I guess, afraid to keep on putting things out there. And I know, maybe people will shoot various things down, but I think it's better than giving up and saying, well, this is a really big topic, but we're just going to avoid it, or just keep doing what we're doing. But actually, I think it's something that we need to keep on exploring. All right, so that being said, I was reading in Jesper Juul's book, Raising Competent Children, and he had some thoughts on this as well. And he basically was saying that the key thing is for parents to not hide their wants and desires, but to actually make those open and speak those out loud to their children, and then give an opportunity for children to cooperate. So, for instance, if say you've done dinner and maybe you need to go somewhere, or maybe you're feeling really tired, then state your desire. Maybe it might be, I really need to go somewhere, and I would really like it if you could do the dishes because I'm not going to find the time. Or it might be, I'm feeling really, really tired tonight. I had a really long day, and it would be absolutely superb if you could do the dishes. I would really like that. But then the second part of it is also to then say, what do you think? It's not, I would really like that and you'd better do it. It's, what do you think? Be genuinely, give them a genuine opportunity to say yes or no. Give them a genuine opportunity to say yes or no, and to be helpful or to not. I mean, they might have other things that they want to do as well, and and they might be tired as well, or whatever it might be. So I think that's a really key thing. So make the situations genuine, and be genuine in your asking, and then also be genuine in your question of whether or not they would like to help. And in fact, Jesper Juul makes a point that, in particular, when it comes to children like below the age of 11 or 12, it really doesn't make too much sense assigning regular duties, basically, because they keep on forgetting them anyway. It's hard enough as it is. But rather that you should just take situations as they come and keep on giving them more and more opportunities to say yes or no and be helpful. And just allow them to go through those negotiations, because in the end, that's what building relationships is all about, really, is being able to go through all these negotiations with someone successfully. And so Jesper Juul points out that, in particular, like this idea of families sitting down together and then forming a duty roster, often at times when this happens, perhaps the child is in a good mood and you're all together as a family and things like that, and there might be even some enthusiasm from the child, but Jesper points out that a lot of the times this is mainly because the child is wanting to please you in that moment. And his analogy is sort of like a person might say to their lover or their spouse or whatever, I will love you forever. Now, that statement cannot actually be guaranteed for a lifetime. I mean, hopefully they might love that person forever, but that actually can't be guaranteed. We can't force ourselves to keep on loving someone, particularly maybe if they've done something really awful to us or whatever it might be. So that statement cannot be guaranteed. But the thing is, like, that doesn't mean that statement is completely useless. What that person is saying when someone says, I will love you forever, or yes, I will do the dishes 3 times a week, is that they are trying to capture, in the first instance, the love that the person feels for that person at that current moment, or in terms of the child, they're trying to capture their desire to want to please you, to want to cooperate with you in that moment. So, but this is the thing, I don't think, particularly with younger children, it's quite hard to hold them to that, to hold them to their enthusiasm that they have in that current moment. And so that's why I think it is better to just take situations as they come and make genuine requests, and don't be scared to make genuine requests of asking them to help you, and then also make a genuine request whether or not they would like to or not. So those are some of my thoughts around that. I hope that is interesting. Remember also that these kind of principles that I'm talking about, again, apply to wider life as well, not just within parenting situations, but also other situations. Be forthright with the people in your life about your wants, your desires, but don't impose that on them, but rather give them the opportunity to say yes and no, and make that a genuine question when you ask them that. Alright, thank you so much for watching, and I hope that was helpful. Alright, thanks, bye.